Did you know that at this very moment it's a different time somewhere else in the world? As we look at our planet, this big blue marble spinning in space, we've divided it up into something called time zones. It's how we make sense of time across the globe. Think about it. There are places on Earth where the sun is rising, while in others it's the middle of the day, and still others where people are sound asleep. We have 24 time zones for 24 hours in a day. How cool is that? But it gets even more fascinating. Some countries have half-hour time zones, and believe it or not, there are even places with quarter-hour time zones. And then there's the international dateline, that imaginary line that's not actually so straight after all. Picture the Earth making a full rotation on its axis. That takes about 24 hours, right? Now imagine slicing the Earth like an orange into 24 equal wedges. Each of those slices represents a time zone. As the Earth rotates, the sun shines on each time zone, one after the other. When the sun is directly overhead in one time zone, it's noon there, but it's already 1 o'clock in the time zone to the east and 11 o'clock in the time zone to the west. So, as you move eastward across these time zones, you add an hour for each zone you pass. Travel westward and you subtract an hour. Pretty straightforward, wouldn't you say? Now here's where things get really interesting. Not all countries stick to those neat hour-long time zones. Take India, for example. They're 5.5 hours ahead of Coordinated Universal Time, which is the standard time the world sets their clocks to. Then there's Nepal, just a hop, skip and a jump from India, and they're 5 hours and 45 minutes ahead of UTC. Imagine living in a place where your clock is 15 minutes different from your neighbours. These unique time zones often have historical or cultural reasons behind them. Chapter 3, the zigzagging international dateline. Now let's talk about the international dateline. It's that imaginary line that runs from the North Pole to the South Pole, mostly along the 180-degree meridian, which is exactly opposite the prime meridian. You might think it's a perfectly straight line, but you'd be wrong. The international dateline actually zigzags its way across the Pacific Ocean. Why? To avoid cutting through countries and dividing them into different days. Imagine waking up in one part of a country on Monday and driving a few miles to another part of the same country, only to find out it's Tuesday. To avoid that kind of time travel confusion, the international dateline takes a few detours. So, as you can see, time zones are a fascinating human invention. We've taken this fundamental aspect of our existence, this thing we call time, and carved it up into manageable chunks. But here's the thing, time, in the grand cosmic scheme of things, is relative. What do I mean by that? Well, that's a topic for another time, another video perhaps. But for now, just remember, the next time you travel across a time zone, you're not just changing your watch, you're experiencing a fundamental principle of the universe, and that, my friends, is pretty amazing.